Hello, grade 10. Welcome back to our English class. In the previous lesson, you have learned how to write the chapter 2 of research paper, Review of Related Literature. This time, you will be learning how to write the chapter 3 of research paper, the research procedure. As I mentioned earlier, this episode is all about research procedure. And I got this lecture from School Division's Office of Pasig City. For the most essential learning competency, you are expected to compose a research report on a relevant social issue. Let us take a look with these two pictures. Why are doctors and nurses called as the modern heroes? Not all heroes wear capes. In the midst of the novel coronavirus pandemic, the real heroes wear scrubs. Home quarantined citizens express love for the doctors and nurses on the front lines of the global COVID-19 outbreak, even as it spreads across much of the world. However, despite their kindness in helping people infected with coronavirus, people still express their concerns that they might be carriers of virus too. Is it fair to judge someone as virus carrier based on his profession? How can you identify the veracity of reports? This can be done by following a systematic data gathering. How can you attain a methodical research procedure? Have you been doubtful on the veracity of research results posted online or printed materials? I'm sure you have. What procedures, methods, and tools should you undertake to produce valid and reliable research paper? What are being discussed and presented in Chapter 3 of research paper? These are only few of the questions I know run on your mind as we discuss research procedure. And at this point, we are going to answer this question. What is methodology in research paper writing? Research methodology refers to the discussion regarding the specific methods chosen and used in a research paper. This discussion also encompasses the theoretical concepts that further provide information about the method selection and application. Now, what is research design? When we say research design, it is the framework of research methods and techniques chosen by a researcher. The design allows researchers to hone in on research methods that are suitable for the subject matter and set up their studies up for success. There are two classifications of research design. First, we have the quantitative research design. And second, we have qualitative research design. For now, let us have the quantitative research design. This research design aimed at discovering how many people think, act, or feel in a specific way. Quantitative projects involve large sample sizes, concentrating on the quantity of responses. Here are the types of quantitative research design. Number one, the most common, the descriptive research design. It seeks to describe the current status of an identified variable. These research projects are designed to provide systematic information about a phenomenon. The researcher does not usually begin with a hypothesis, but is likely to develop one after collecting the data. The analysis and synthesis of the data provide the test of the hypothesis. Systematic collection of information requires careful selection of the units studied and careful measurement of each variable. Let us say, for example, a description of how second grade students spend their time during summer vacation. Another example, a description of the kinds of physical activities that typically occur in nursing homes and how frequently each occurs. Number two, research design under quantitative is correlational research. It attempts to determine the extent of a relationship between two or more variables using statistical data. In this type of design, relationships between and among a number of facts are sought and interpreted. This type of research will recognize trends and patterns in data, but it does not go so far in its analysis to prove causes for these observed patterns. Cause and effect is not the basis of this type of observational research. The data, relationships, and distributions of variables are studied only. Variables are not manipulated. They are only identified and are studied as they occur in a natural setting. Examples. Letter A, the relationship between intelligence and self-esteem. And letter B, the relationship between diet and anxiety. Number three is causal comparative quasi-experimental research. This kind of design attempts to establish cause and effect relationships among the variables. These types of design are very similar to true experiments, but some key differences. An independent variable is identified but not manipulated by the experimenter. And the effects of the independent variable on the dependent variable are measured. The researcher does not randomly assign groups and must use the ones that are naturally formed or pre-existing groups. Identified control groups exposed to the treatment variable are studied and compared to groups who are not. Let us have these two examples. Letter A, the effect of preschool attendance on social maturity at the end of the first grade. And letter B, the effect of taking multivitamins on a student's school absenteeism. Number 4 research design is experimental research. It strictly adheres to a scientific research design. It includes a hypothesis, a variable that can be manipulated by the researcher, and variables that can be measured, calculated, and compared. The researcher collects data and results will either support or reject the hypothesis. Let us say these examples. Number 1, the effect of a new treatment plan on breast cancer. And number 2, the effect of positive reinforcement on attitude towards school. Second type is what we call qualitative research design. It is a research that involves collecting and analyzing non-numerical data like text, video, or audio that aims to understand concepts, opinions, or experiences. It can be used to gather in-depth insights into a problem or generate new ideas for research. First, the research design under qualitative is what we call the ethnology. The research immerses himself to the target participant's environment to understand the goals, cultures, challenges, motivations, and themes that emerge. Ethnography has its roots in cultural anthropology, where researchers immerse themselves within a culture, often for years. Rather than relying on interviews or surveys, you experience the environment firsthand and sometimes as a participant observer. Second is narrative. The researcher weaves together a sequence of events, usually from just one or two individuals, to form a cohesive story. Conduct in-depth interviews, read documents, and look for themes. In other words, how does an individual story illustrate the larger life influences that created it. Often, interviews are conducted over weeks, months, or even years. But the final narrative doesn't need to be in chronological order. Rather, it can be presented as a story or narrative with themes and can reconcile conflicting stories and highlight tensions and challenges, which can be opportunities for innovation. Third is what we call case study. A case study is a research approach that is used to generate an in-depth, multi-phased understanding of a complex issue in its real-life context. It is an established research design that is used extensively in a wide variety of disciplines, particularly in the social sciences. The research is able to collect data by interviews, documents, reports, and observations. Respondents are those persons who have been invited to participate in a particular study and have actually taken part in the study. Now, what is a research sample? Sample is a group of people, objects, or items that are taken from a larger population for measurement. It should be representative of the population to ensure that we can generalize the findings from the research sample to the population as a whole. Let us have the data collection method for quantitative research. Number one, probability sampling. This is a definitive method of sampling carried out by utilizing some form of random selection and enabling researchers to make a probability statement based on data collected at random from the target demographic. One of the best things about probability sampling is it allows researchers to collect the data from representatives of the population they are interested in studying. Letter A is simple random sampling. It is a subset of a statistical population in which each member of the subset has an equal probability of being chosen. An example of a simple random sample would be the names of 25 employees being chosen out of a hat from a company of 250 employees. Second is non-probability sampling. It is defined as a sampling technique in which the researcher selects samples based on the subjective judgment of the researcher rather than random selection. It is a less strict method. This sampling method depends heavily on the expertise of the researchers. When we say convenience sampling, it is a non-probability sampling technique where samples are selected from the population only because they are conveniently available to the researcher. Researchers choose these samples just because they are easy to recruit, and the researcher did not consider selecting a sample that represents the entire population. Consecutive sampling is very similar to convenience sampling, with a slight variation. Here, the researcher picks a single person or a group of a sample, conducts research over a period, analyzes the results, and then moves on to another subject or group if needed. Consecutive sampling technique gives the researcher a chance to work with many topics and fine-tune his or her research by collecting results that have vital insights. Let us now move on to the research instrument. What is a research instrument? A research instrument is a tool used to collect, measure, and analyze data related to your subject. Research instruments can be tests, surveys, scales, questionnaires, or even checklists. Let us now have the data collection method for quantitative research. We have here surveys and questionnaires. Surveys or questionnaires created using online survey software are playing a crucial role in online data collection, be it quantitative or qualitative research. Here are the types of questions in a questionnaire. First type of question is what we call dichotomous question. It is generally a yes or no, close-ended questions. Second is multiple choice. It is a close-ended question in which a respondent has to select one from the given options. Number three is Likert scale questions, a type of question used to measure attitudes and opinions. Respondents are asked to rate items on a level of agreement. For example, strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. This time, let us have the data collection method for qualitative research. First in line is interview. It is generally a qualitative research technique which involves asking open-ended questions to converse with respondents and collect illicit data about a subject. Interviews are conducted with a sample from a population, and the key characteristic they exhibit as their conversational tone. Second is a focus group discussion. It involves gathering people from similar backgrounds or experiences together to discuss a specific topic of interest. It is a form of qualitative research where questions are asked about their perceptions, attitudes, beliefs, opinion, or ideas. Number three is observational. It is one of the oldest and most fundamental research method approaches. This approach involves collecting data using one's senses, especially looking and listening in a systematic and meaningful way. Fourth, document analysis. It is a form of qualitative research in which documents are interpreted by the researcher to give voice and meaning around an assessment topic. Analyzing documents incorporates coding content into themes similar to how focus group or interview transcripts are analyzed. Let us now have validation of research instruments. Why should research questionnaire be validated? The purpose of validating a research instrument is to ensure that the instrument used is measuring what it is supposed to measure. Questionnaire is one of the most widely used tools to collect data, especially social science research. The main objective of questionnaire in research is to obtain relevant information in most reliable and valid manner. Thus, the accuracy and consistency of survey questionnaire forms a significant aspect of research methodology, which are known as validity and reliability. What is statistical treatment? The term statistical treatment is a catch-all term, which means to apply any statistical method to your data and to interpret the gathered data. First and the most common, percentage. Percent simply means per hundred, and the symbol used to express percentage is this. 1% is 100th of the total or whole and is therefore calculated by dividing the total or whole number by 100. It can be used to letter A to enable data with different sample sizes or totals to be compared, and letter B to quantify the amount of change over time. We also have measures of central tendency. A measure of central tendency is a single value that attempts to describe a set of data by identifying the central position within that set of data. We have here mean. When we say mean, it is defined as all the scores for a variable added together and then divided by the number of observations. In having mean, We are just getting the average. It aims to provide an accurate description of the entire data. It is the single value that is most typical, representative of the collected data. The mean can be used to get an overall idea or picture of the data set. Mean is best used for a data set with numbers that are close together. One large or small number might skew the mean, but the median can often give you a better idea of the data. And here is the formula in getting the mean. Number 2 is what we call the median. The median is the middle value. It is the value that splits the data set in half. To find the median, order your data from smallest to largest, and then find the data point that has an equal amount of values above it and below it. And here is an example. Number 3 is what we call the mode. It is the value that occurs the most frequently in your data set. In this given example, number 5 appears 3 times, number 4 2, 3 once, 2 twice, 1 once, and number 5 appeared the most. That's all for this episode. This is Mom Fanny Luna signing off. Happy learning. Keep safe, everyone.